So once again, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm Marion. I'm here in New Orleans in the Gentilly neighborhood, and I'm going to be a facilitator this morning. But before we begin, let me read our introductory remarks. Racism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New Orleans in the summer of 1993. We seek ways through person-to-person communication to show that we are committed to treating all human beings with love, respect, empathy, compassion, and humility. Join us. Erace is an organization that does not espouse any political party, and we have no religious affiliation. We believe in acceptance of all people, and no personal attacks of any kind will be tolerated. We come with the intent to listen, learn, and not to argue. I'm going to read the land acknowledgement, and then we'll go over the brief rules that we're all familiar with, but we'll just refresh them this morning. We begin today by acknowledging that what we know as the United States is the ancestral and unceded territory of many indigenous peoples, and that there are many nations and tribes that could be named here. Members of our meeting group today on the lands of the Chitimacha and the Choctaw in New Orleans, the Creeks and the Cherokees in Atlanta, the Tonkawan, Lipan, Apache, and Comanche in Austin, the Lenape and the Piscataway in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, the Wampanoag and the Nipmuc in Peoples in Boston, the Cohida and Mojave in Riverside, and the Lumbee in Fayetteville. We thank their ancestors for being stewards of these lands through the generations and through today. We need to protect and honor the history and people of these places. Despite centuries of colonial theft and violence, we should always remember that we are all still on indigenous land, and it will always be indigenous land. So with that being said, let's have a little quick refresher. Everybody keep yourselves on mute. I have my notepad here so that I can take everyone's name as they raise their finger if they want to get on the list. And everyone will speak in the order of the list, 2 minutes each. Don't interrupt the speaker. There are no side comments to others, no personal attacks, no name calling, which I'm sure there wouldn't be. The point of the discussion is to listen, learn, not to argue. You can ask a clarifying question, but not give your opinion. That's what the list is for. If you have an opinion and you want to participate in the discussion this morning, roll your finger so I can see it. Okay. Some of you were blocked. There was a big black vertical line going across the screen. I cleared it. Okay. 2 minutes to speak. You don't have to say anything. If you're here for the first time, hopefully we'll have some more folks to join us. That'll be great. You can just pass if you don't have anything to say. At the end of the meeting, you can. I will be since I'm the facilitator, I'll be the last person to speak during the wrap up, and this is the time to share your personal comments. Okay. All right. Shifting my papers around, y'all. So today the article, let's introduce everybody first. All right, almost forgot. So according to my screen, we're going to start with Beatrice.
Yes, thank you, baby. I'm glad to be here. I know. I'm glad to be here. Beatrice July here in East Point, Georgia, outside of Atlanta. Glad to be here. Have missed you all. Looking forward to the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, it's good to see you, B. Louise?
I'm Louise. I'm in Austin, Texas now. Been coming to Erace meetings since the mid-90s. Moved from New Orleans because of Katrina.
Good to see you, Louise. Phyllis?
Good morning, everybody. I'm in New Orleans and I've been coming to Erace since summer of 2008.
Thank you, Phyllis. Pastor Larry.
Good morning, I'm Larry, and I've been coming to Erace since 1993, 4, 5, somewhere in there. And I'm glad to be here this morning.
Thanks, Larry. Glenn. Glenn, are you there on mute?
Okay, yeah. Glenn Abdullah. Been coming to your race since 94. Glad to be here this morning.
All right. Glad you're here, Glenn. Nancy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nancy Moore. I'm in the New Orleans area, and I've been coming to Erace since June of 2007.
Good to see you, Nancy. Great. Richard.
Good morning. It's Richard here in New Orleans since coming to Erace since about 93 in the beginning.
Good to see you, Richard. Good to see everybody. Did I miss anyone? Because you all are
Yes,
shifted. Oh, I'm so sorry.
that's okay. And I think
All
maybe
right.
Amal as well. I'm Marla. I'm from the New Orleans area as well. I've been coming to Erace since about 2019-ish, I think. Happy to be here.
Good to see you, Marla. Let's see. I'm trying to get everybody so I can see everybody.
Amal.
Dee Dee.
Oh, Dee Dee. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee, and I've been coming to Erace for about 5 years.
Hi, Dee Dee.
And I really like to be at the meeting, but I also really need to be at the meeting because it's neat to talk to like-minded folk. And hi, B. And but if I do need to leave, my husband had a stroke about 6 weeks ago, and he's doing quite well, but he had a really terrible night last night. And so if I disappear, that's why. But happy to be here for as long as I can. Thanks.
It's good to see you, Dee Dee, and I hope your husband makes a speedy recovery, and I hope that he's doing well today, and hope that you're doing well. Take care of yourself as well as him. Good to see you. Amal.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm Amal, and I've been coming to these meetings for a very long time. Always enjoy the exchange. Looking forward to the exchange today.
Good, Amal. So glad you're here. It's, as I said earlier, good to see everybody. Did I get everyone? Because this screen keeps fluctuating. All right. I'm trying to get everybody on here. Okay. Now, y'all, I had a couple of articles that I came across, more than a couple, but this one really caught my eye because this lady spoke at the United Nations. And I remember a few years ago when I was in New York City, my granddaughter and I went with this group and we passed the United Nations building, didn't go in, but we walked past it. So this lady spoke about how racism requires ignorance. And I did a little deep dive into ignorance, and I'm telling you, ignorance is a mess. So this particular article deals with how art and culture can help end racial discrimination. So with that being said, getting the list ready. And I'm looking forward to us having a lively conversation. So with that being said, who would like to go first? Okay, Richard. Unmute, Richard.
Beatrice also had her finger up.
Sure. There we
Okay,
go. Okay, let me get
I
myself
can't
straight.
see
Okay,
everybody.
I really like this article for a couple of reasons. First, Marion, I'm really glad that you picked an article connected to the United Nations, because I think for many of us, that organization is one of the last glimmering hopes we have for getting through so much of what the world is going through right now. And I can see why Miss Lewis spoke to the United Nations on their one of their broadcasts, because I think that the United Nations is one of the few world agencies, let alone any agency at all, that directly makes the connection between cultural, our cultural background and promoting cultures of the world, particularly musical culture. That I took a deeper dive into this into the United Nations website, and I'll have some more to say about it later. But I think, particularly in the cases of cities like New Orleans, jazz in all its forms has probably done more culturally to promote interracial communication and understanding than possibly any form of music that's come along. And the fact that so many tourists come to New Orleans and so many jazz musicians travel around the world. And as Frederick Douglass was quoted as saying, it's these little perceptual day-to-day interactions that can do as much to counteract discrimination and prejudice as quote major events. So I'll have some more to say about that later, but this was a good choice, Marion. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Beatrice?
Yeah, thank you, Marion. I, like Richard, am excited about this article because it does talk about United Nations. I'll just be really brief. This is the 60th anniversary of the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. I have never heard of this event, this date, and it's just wonderful that it has been at least going on. And the other thing I want to refer to is the fact that the speaker talks about narrative, and the narrative, who writes the narrative, who tells the story, is the person that is so important. People have said that, historians have said that the North won the war, the Civil War, but the South won the narrative. And because they were able to talk about the lost cause and have continued to celebrate the treason, and because the narrative, the concept of narrative that is referred to by the speaker, she says, over the course of centuries, through the force of culture, the work on narratives is what makes the change. So I think we just have to be conscious of how the stories are told and who tells them. Who is the captive, who's the victim, who's the oppressor. And it is so important that we remain aware. So I just want to comment on the concept of narrative and how important, how central it is to people's existence. Thank you.
Thank you, B. All right, I still don't have everybody on the screen.
Larry has his hand up.
Larry?
Yes, and I was next. Okay. Is that hand acceptable, or you require a finger?
Larry, I didn't understand what you said.
He said, is that hand acceptable, or do you require a finger?
Because he's not on.
You can't see his face anyway. I don't.
So he's asking, can you put up his hand in the little waving hand?
Of course.
Okay,
sure.
But you didn't see it, I think. So I'll just tell you if I see something.
Okay. I just want to start off this way, in that I don't think this is about the United Nations. United Nations is almost powerless in the face of the American veto. Every time the United Nations take a stand on something, if the American system of racism does not agree with it, then the United States just veto it. And I don't think it's about culture and music. We've had culture and music for years, but that hasn't changed anything. So I would like to give this take. I won't be able to finish it. I have to come back. But Martin Luther King said in the last book that he wrote, where do we go from here? He asked the question, he said, who are we? And then he said, we are the descendants of slaves. We are the offspring of noble men and women who were kidnapped from their native land and chained in ships like beasts. We are the heirs of a great and exploited continent known as Africa. We are the heirs of a past of rope, fire, and murder. I, for one, am not ashamed of this past. My shame is for those who became so inhuman that they could inflict this torture upon us. And so when we think about this subject of racism, that is where I stand. How can a people be so inhuman that they can inflict such torture upon another people? And today, July 19th, 2025, the descendants of those who inflicted this torture has no shame. And this is why the USA is hopelessly in this ungodly concept that white people are inherently superior to all other human beings, especially those who identify as Black people. I'll pause there and come back. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Larry. Did anyone else raise his or her finger during Larry's comments? I'm still trying to get Louise.
Okay, hold on. Let me time myself. Not that I need it. Larry, it's greed, right? Started it all for sure. Gaining something, and they don't. Obviously, they're evil people as well, but I'm pretty darn sure that all of this, everything starts from greed. All of the, going to different lands to try and get this, to try and get that. It's all greed. They want more. They want money. They want land. They want power. But I didn't quite understand that you. It's changed a little bit as far as it has been ingrained into the American psyche of racism has been ingrained in us, in our, policies, in everything that we do now. And I do believe as well that B was talking about just communicating, having a day, the piece from that article, just saying that your day-to-day interactions and stuff will change. I mean, it's from ignorance. It's from people not knowing about other cultures, about, and respecting them as humans instead of, the devil that they've been made to be in all of everything in the world. Sorry, I'm really not very eloquent this morning. So I guess I'll just stop there, actually. Sorry.
Thank you for your comments, Louise. That was just fine. Did anyone raise his or her hand while Louise was speaking? I see Richard, Dee Dee, Beatrice, Glenn, Nancy. I'm still trying to get everybody on the screen. Marla and Phyllis.
All right, you can put me on the list.
All right, you're on the list. Is there anyone else?
Beatrice.
Larry.
Great, writing your name, Larry.
Did you get Beatrice?
Yes, I have. I have Glenn, Beatrice, and Larry.
Okie dokes.
And Louise just spoke. All right, Glenn.
Okay. United Nations uh, was designed to bring about fairness, and that no no strong country could go in and take over a weaker country. All of the every member of the United Nations would be against them and would use whatever weapons they had. Don't have to be uh, airplanes and guns. Could be financial. Could be diplomacy to stop them, to show their dissatisfaction of that nation and make them quit it because their bottom line gonna be hurt. But the United Nations, I mean, America is so, like Larry was saying, it's so powerful that you don't all the time have to do a veto. They just have nations that are obligated to them, nations that they give billions of dollars every year to them, that they don't want to lose that money, so they vote against their own conscience. Uh, what's going on in Israel is definitely a genocide, and but there is some good news coming. There are countries, at least 20 nations have 20 countries have come together to in Brazil just this week to bring sanctions on Israel.
Hmm.
I'll leave that. I'll leave. Okay, I'll cut off there.
All right, thank you, Glenn. I'm looking at the screen. Okay, Beatrice.
Yeah, just looking, the speaker, Sarah Lewis, was asked, what nations can do. And so she said, we must focus on the role of education. And as you stated earlier, when you introduced our ignorance allows for racism, but racism requires ignorance. It requires that we don't know the facts. The state of Georgia last year passed a law called Divisive Concepts Law. And it requires that teachers not teach anything in classrooms that would make white children feel uncomfortable. And that is really what it boils down to. So teachers are left to try to figure out what divisive concepts are, what's going to make white people feel guilty, uncomfortable. And that is a very, very unfortunate standard by which to hold an educator. Because the history of this country has to make somebody somewhere feel uncomfortable. The colonialists came to this land that had been settled for thousands of years and had been where people had lived in harmony with nature for thousands of years, and decided because of the papal bull, whatever the reasons, manifest doctrine, whatever, we can take this. This is ours. And people were hurt, people were slaughtered, people died. And there's no way that anybody can listen to that if they do not feel hurt or uncomfortable. There's something troubled with them. And we need to go forward, not to mention the Middle Passage, not to mention chattel slavery, separation of families. The saddest thing when I go down to the Legacy Museum in Alabama, is to see the names of people who, after the emancipation, were looking for their children. They put ads in newspapers. I'll come back.
Thank you, Beatrice. That was really something worth listening to. Just not that what everybody else has said previously hadn't been, but let me speak out of turn for a minute, because at the end of the discussion, I forgotten. There was a woman from Arizona. She was in the Senate, and she made a comment about, we don't want our precious white children to be hurt.
Uh-huh.
And I was talking to the television when she said that. I said, what about the other precious children? Are not all children precious? What about Black children whose great ancestors were enslaved? Don't you think that would hurt them to know that maybe their great grandfather or great great grandfather or great great grandmother was enslaved? What about those precious children? What about the precious children that belong to the families of the indigenous people who were here for eons? Wouldn't they be hurt? So I was quite angry with that lady, and I'm so glad we don't have the capability of being able to climb through the television set, because I think I would have climbed through and put my fingers around her throat. But for someone to have made such an outrageous statement about precious white children, and not that they aren't precious, but aren't all children precious? We were all children once. And when I got old enough to understand what had gone on in this country, I was crushed. And I told you all the story about one of my uncles being murdered by the Ku Klux
You
Klan.
can't keep
So,
going like that.
excuse me, Glenn. I'm saying this because at the end I will have forgotten it.
Well,
And on that note,
write things down. Always write things down. That's the best way to remember.
yes. All right. I don't want to be holding my head down while somebody else is trying to raise their hand to speak. So, Larry, this is your opportunity to speak now.
On the front page of the article, it says, despite significant progress over the years, the fight against racism and racial discrimination remains as urgent as ever. But I question, what does she mean by significant progress? You know, progress is relative. With whatever quote unquote progress that was made, there was always a white backlash and white resistance that challenged any quote unquote progress. Look at even the school system that Beatrice was talking about. You know, when you got a school system that won't eliminate books on Ruby Bridges, 6-year-old Black girl, and white children can't learn about Ruby Bridges and how white parents spat on them and how they spat on the Little Rock Nine who were trying to integrate that high school in Little Rock in 1959, I believe. Parents spat on those 14 and 15-year-old boys and girls who were just trying to get an education. And that system is still with us. You know, in the United States Constitution, it says we hold these truths to be self-what? Evident. That all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Self-evident means that these truths are so obvious and understandable that they don't need to be proven. Rights given by God that government cannot take away. So what did the government do? They took the manhood element away and reduced the Africans to property. When they reduced them to property, beasts of burdens, lacking unto cattle and oxen and mules. I'll pause there and come back. Put me back on the list, please. Put me back on the list.
All right. We have Phyllis, Larry, and then the list is open. Is there anyone else who?
Glenn has had his hand up.
Glenn
before Larry. He's had his hand up the whole time Larry was talking.
All right, Phyllis.
Okay. So I want to say I've never heard the story about this man, Charles Black Jr., and how hearing Louis Armstrong completely changed his worldview about people who were Black, and how that led to him having a role in Brown versus Board of Education. I mean, that was just like an incredible string of events. And I think that can happen through a lot of different art forms, whether it's poetry or novels or nonfiction or written, like paintings, sketches, whatever. People can come to view others as more human through experiencing their art. And I think too that this when the first paragraph, first sentence, ignorance allows for racism. I think ignorance also allows for all kinds of bigotries that people have, that they somehow manage to think of other people as less than themselves, less than the normal people, quote unquote, and feel then that it is okay to have unjust laws against those people. I think that's it for now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Phyllis. All right. Glenn?
Yes, racism is all over the world, and it was designed to divide and conquer. And when you can make someone less than someone else, then you could do to them, and others say, "Well, he ain't doing it. It's not doing it to me. I'm in the higher echelon. They're not going to do that to me." So it's a tool, and people do grade you by where you stand in the world by the color of your skin. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Glenn. Larry?
Okay, so picking up where I left off at, about we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And so since the founders of America could not treat the Africans and look upon them as men, requiring them to be treated equal, they had to reduce them to animals, to beasts, so they could own them as property. Then they did not have to respect their humanity. And now they could just treat them like beasts or burdens, likened unto cattle or oxen or mules, to pick cotton and sugar cane. The African women were raped at will by the so-called slave masters with no recourse because they were considered to be property. African families were sold on the marketplace, children separated from their parents. And the fact that so-called immigrants are treated the same way today means that the so-called art and culture aspect is basically racist and evil and unchanged. The fact that America supports the genocide taking place in Palestine today means that racism is alive and well and is embedded in the hearts of many white people who think that they are God ordained to rule over the world. And this is why slavery and lynchings and Jim Crow and sharecropping and apartheid and the Indian Removal Act of 1830, creating the Trail of Tears, and the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, and white supremacy being disguised as Make America Great Again, is still alive and well today. And while racists have no moral conscience, it takes something less than humanity to have such an inhuman aspect of your psychic that you can treat people like slaves and dogs. I'll pause there.
All right, Larry. If you want to continue your remarks, you can be put back on the list.
Yes, put me back on the list, please.
All right, is there anyone that I missed? Larry was the last person whose name I've written down.
Beatrice. And Richard. And Phyllis.
Beatrice, thank you, Louise, because I still can't get everybody on the screen.
Okay, I can see them all. Yeah, there's two
Okay.
screens. You have to move to a different screen. They're not all on one screen. But it's okay. I'll be your eyes and your ears.
Okay, I have Beatrice. Who else, Louise? Thank you.
Richard and Phyllis.
Richard and Phyllis.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you so much.
It's okay.
Okay. Beatrice?
Okay, one of the comments from the speaker, justice requires humility on the part of all of us who acknowledge how wrong we have been. And that is a quality, humility is a quality that is so delicate, like a sweet flower that we cannot find it, and when we do it can perish. I mean, when you talk about humility, people being able to accept it, oh, we were wrong to do that or to do this, the things about which Larry is speaking, or that we were wrong in our past. We can do better now. I just love the fact that she referred to that quality. And then years ago, when all of us in high school read Jane Eyre, there was this quote, this little nugget of wisdom. I don't even know how, as a high school person I remember it, but it said, prejudice is hardest to remove, hardest to eliminate from a mind that has not been loosened by education. And so that is what this one, when she talks about ignorance. And that little nugget, I don't know why I remember it from Jane Eyre. I don't know who said it and to whom, but it is absolutely true. Prejudice is hardest to eliminate from a mind that has not been loosened by education. And it's hard work. And now that there's so much, Larry mentioned the Ruby Bridges book, there's so much literature, so much art that from which we could learn, as Phyllis mentions. And this can touch our hearts. When you go to a museum, that Faith Ringgold, there's a big exhibit now here in Atlanta at our art museum on the art of Faith Ringgold, the author and artist. And when you see art can touch your heart, music and art, you can come out as a change. It may be a brief change, but it's a change. And so I just herald the need for humility, for art, and for education. Thanks.
Thank you, Beatrice. Richard?
Yes, first to respond to Reverend Larry's remarks, I will agree with him when he stated that at one point that many whites are essentially perpetuating racism and discrimination and bigotry in the United States, just paraphrasing Larry, but he used the word many, which I was happy to hear, because many is one of those words that can be interpreted in the most negative sense, which for some viewers and listeners here would probably mean most, but for others of us would be too many, which I think we can all agree with. There is still too much outright bigotry, discrimination, racism perpetuated by, and I'll use the word quotes again because I think all of you know by now that to me using the word white and black is in itself divisive, in that it literally is dividing folks along black and white lines. I'm trying to use European American, African American, Native American. I think they're all an equivalent way to talk about our, quote, racial divisions in the US. But what I particularly wanted to mention is that in response to an earlier remark that the United Nations was basically impotent, no question that the Security Council and the General Assembly are more often at odds with each other and in many political ways impotent. What Ms. Lewis was speaking on behalf of many, I think, was a very too below the radar organization called UNESCO, which is an essential part of the United Nations that's been around for many years, which is meant to promote the kinds of cultural interactions that I talked about initially. And in 1994, UNESCO started the Slave Route Project in Benin, and events like the National Jazz Day, International Jazz Day, that was started by UNESCO, and that's in Chicago next year, is directly tied into the UN, to the UNESCO's efforts to bring to light past racial injustices and to bring people together to confront them, largely through music and culture and through traveling to different places to experience different cultures and musical styles. So I'll get back on the list about that.
Thank you, Richard. Has anyone else raised his or her hand
Marla.
since Richard was?
Marla and Dee Dee. Oh, and Larry? No.
Yes.
Are you clapping? What is that?
Yes.
You're
Raising my
clapping.
hand.
Oh, that's clapping, but he's raising his hand as well. So that's Larry.
All right, I have Larry. You would follow Phyllis because after Richard, I have Phyllis's name. Phyllis, Larry, Louise, Marla.
No, not me. Marla and Dee Dee.
All right, I have
And
Marla
then
and Dee,
Larry.
And then Larry.
and then Larry.
Yeah.
Okay, am I up?
All right, Phyllis.
Okay. So I printed this. So on my page 3, Professor Lewis says, if education is important, the related question is, how do we best educate? Then at the end of that, in bold, it says, we educate through the narrative messaging in the world all around us. And I think that is a big factor in what is changing in terms of what's going on between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Because the Israeli narrative, and their own word for it is hasbara, which means in Hebrew explaining or explanation, but it is really propaganda. And that is being overshadowed and debunked by real-time understanding of what is happening, not only in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, in all of Palestine. And part of the Hasbara propaganda is a couple things like they started it, which is not true. It's too complicated to understand, which is not true. Because was slavery hard to understand? Was Jim Crow hard to understand? Was South African apartheid hard to understand? And also the dehumanization and how they talk about Palestinians. So all of those things are being undercut by seeing on screens in our hands, mainly not news media so much, of the humanity of Palestinians. And I think, and also art. I mean, I love posting when I see them pictures of Palestinian dabka dance. Because to me, it's like sharing Palestinian joy. That's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Larry.
You see, one of the problems is if we don't know our history.
Larry wasn't next. Dee Dee and Marla were next, and then Larry after. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to be fair.
All right, I wrote the names. They were coming so fast. Dee Dee is after you, Phyllis. Who's after
And
Dee
then
Dee?
Marla.
I have
and
Marla.
And then Larry.
And I have Larry. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's speaking now?
Dee Dee.
Dee Dee.
Okay. I was reading, I didn't have a whole lot of time to concentrate on the article, but I was reading it hurriedly. And on a more personal basis, ignorance is a choice. You can choose to be a bigot, and you can act like it. You can use it as an excuse. I have a lot of people in my life that were raised in the South. They were raised in a bigoted community. They chose not to be that way. And that is a hard choice because a lot of times you will lose part of your family. But if you dig your heels in and move forward with your own conscience, you'll get there. And I don't, I have a fair amount of patience with ignorance, but sometimes when I've had enough, I've had enough and I'll speak up. But, um, if people, if someone wants to not be prejudiced, I mean, that's a very big word. It defines a lot of different actions. Then they can make a choice not to feed into it. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Marla.
Yes. Okay, I just have a few disjointed thoughts. The first thing that I wanted to say, I noticed the other day, WLES here, which is our local public broadcasting television station, sent out an email. They will be experiencing over $800,000 in cuts annually now as a result of policies being put forth by the current administration. And that just made me very, very sad talking about that and thinking about that in light of this article in particular and how much exposure kids get, especially, and adults. I love public television to just various parts of the world, various cultures, and so forth. So very sad. The other thing, not critical, but just Little Rock 9 was in 1957 and not 1959. I only knew that because I just visited my daughter in Little Rock, and we went to Little Rock Central and got a tour and the whole thing. The other thing is that growth, I feel, comes from discomfort, and specifically only discomfort in many instances. And to piggyback on what most folks were saying, most American white folks do not want to feel discomfort, be uncomfortable in any sense of the word. There is urgency, there is perfectionism, and all of those other things, but there is nothing about feeling uncomfortable as it relates to growth. No matter how many folks try to explain that or talk about that, I think so many people still fail to see it. And it's hard for me to even see it sometimes, to be honest. So growth in progress, work in progress. And then the other thing I wanted to add, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think all Black folks are really African American, or may not identify as such. And like by saying Black and by saying white, we allow for nuance in people's experience. And, you know, for example, I know somebody who immigrated from Jamaica who is Black, calls themselves Black, but would never refer to themselves as African American because they feel that Black encompasses their entire experience. So that was a conversation that I had with just somebody personally. And I think obviously there are going to be variations across the board, but I don't want to be called European American. Call me white, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Richard wants to get on the list. Marion.
All right, Richard. I have Larry.
No, I think you got someone after Marla.
Dee Dee. I have Dee Dee following Marla, but Dee Dee just spoke.
Oh yeah, and then Larry, and then Richard, right?
Put me on the list.
And okay.
Hold on just a minute, Louise.
Hold
on just a minute,
Marion, I'm going to write
Yes.
it down as well, just as a backup, okay?
I would appreciate it because trying to leave one screen to go to another, I'm missing
Okay,
people.
so
Who did you say was after Marla?
Larry,
Larry.
and then Richard,
I have Larry, Richard.
and who else just put up that?
Did
Shucks.
anyone raise his hand?
Someone else.
You forgot Glenn.
Oh, Glenn. Yep.
Glenn follows Richard.
Yep, I got you. All right. And
All
Beatrice, look at the chat, please. Thanks. Okay, Larry.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to look at everything from a historical perspective, because a lot of people don't know history. And when they don't know history, you know, a lot of times the dominant generation, which is white people, and I'm sorry, you know, this term was created by those who sought to dominate the darker skinned people. So we didn't create the terms white and black. But when we don't know history, then there are those in this generation who would say, well, you know, you people need to get over that. That's in the past. And you need to put that behind you. You know, how does a woman put rape behind her? How does a whole people put rape behind them? You know, and if it were a matter of culture, Marian Anderson would have changed America. But she didn't. She wasn't allowed to sing in somewhere, Carnegie Hall, wherever it was, because of her skin color. So this is not a matter of culture. If it were a matter of culture, when Hank Aaron was about to break Babe Ruth's record, he wouldn't have received all kind of hate mail because the black man was about to break a sacred sports record. So this isn't about culture. And the only way this thing can be countered is through education, you know, and white kids today, black kids, adults, they all need to know that how can a people infect black men in Alabama with syphilis intentionally as some kind of an experiment? How can a people take black women and sterilize them without their knowledge and call themselves human? No, this thing is much deeper than culture. If it were a matter of culture, okay, put me back on the list, please.
All right, Larry, thank you. Richard?
All right. I had, for this article, I didn't want to get into the issue of color versus culture, but I very strongly believe that fixating on color as a way to talk about racism and why it's still prevalent in too many places, I think is simply wrong. That because, and back to Larry's remark, because you know black and white is in the history of how we talk about race doesn't justify it, doesn't mean it's inevitable. History is not destiny. Talk to the people of Syria, talk to many other countries which underwent successful democratic revolutions. Yes, some of them flipped back the wrong way, but history is not destiny. You can see from my arm, you know, I am not white. White is a semantically inappropriate, counterproductive, divisive, bigoted way to talk about race. None of us are white except, I guess you could say, albinos, and albinos come in, quote, all races. 99.9% of people who identify as black are not the color black. They're brown colored, which is also how we refer to Mexican Americans. Talking about color is counterproductive to what racism is all about. I'd like to say that we have come a long way and that history is not our destiny. When it comes to culture and music, look at Noka, which is our New Orleans Center for the Creative Arts in New Orleans. It's a huge step in cultural integration, musical integration in terms of the people that live there, that attend there, and that promote the musical heritage and cultural heritage of New Orleans around the world, getting back to the original article that we read. I'll stop there.
I have a clarifying question.
Sure.
So if you don't define racism as color, what do you define it as?
Well, race, and I don't, the word race, and I don't believe race is primarily grounded in color. It is grounded more in culture, and in minor, in some medical instances in genetics. But there are too many examples of where we have Asian Americans who are lighter skinned than quote white Americans. We actually have white Americans that are darker, specifically Mediterranean quote white people that are darker than many Creole people, which is a whole other conversation. So I think color is again, it's counterproductive to talking about advancing in race relations and in confronting racism.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Richard. We have Glenn. Phyllis, I see your finger.
So Glenn, Larry, then Phyllis?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I agree with what Richard is saying, but that's not reality. They made the picture of Jesus Christ a certain color to favor the European race. So the benefits that come with that complexion, you automatically get it. If you show up in a neighborhood that don't want African Americans, and you show up as in the African American color, you're not going to get in. But if you show up in that color that you have, you're going to get in. So it is the tool that's being used, the skin color. Now the Asians, I've seen some Asians look whiter than some white, but they have the slant eyes, and they're distinguished as different than the European race. Everybody is not of the European race. They are not seen the same. If they had people in there, if the Gazan people were Europeans, and Israel was doing that to European babies, killing babies, that would have been over. That would have never happened. They never got supported by the European race. And another thing about that, Africans, they don't come here and say that they're African American. Oh yes, they do in droves, because they know by saying they're African American, they get benefits from the government, and they know more about the benefits that come from our government more than we do. That's it.
Thank you, Glenn. All right, let's see. Larry?
I understand, Richard, where you're trying to go, but we're still living in a world of reality. I mean, the sea waters is not really blue, but it's reflective of the sky and of the elements that changes the seawater to make it look blue. So we know that black skin as such, like the color black, we know that the skin is not black, no more than the skin is white. But we're dealing with a system that was created by evil people to dominate another people. And until we eradicate that system, we are living in black and white. You know, that's just the reality of it. And you know, I had lost my school of thought. But anyway, we get back in, you know, to the inhumane treatment of a people. You know, how you gonna take people and put them in alligator Alcatraz? You know, that's inhuman. You know, how you gonna take people who've been in this country for 20, 30, 40 years, working, got jobs, families, and you're gonna separate children from their parents? They did that during slavery days. The slave master could decide if there's a family of five and one plantation want three and another want two. They could divide the families. You know, there was a period during the 60s and maybe the 70s where there were a group of African Americans who thought the Black Power movement was the way to go. But Martin Luther King opposed that because he knew that militancy and violence would be nothing but a slaughter. So Martin Luther King thought he would go the love route. What did the system do? The system killed Martin Luther King the same way they killed Malcolm X. MAGA efforts, the four little black girls in Birmingham, Alabama, Emmett Till. We're dealing with the system. And sometimes when we might say white people are many white people, if white people are not opposed to racism, then they may be complicit in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. All right, Phyllis.
Richard has a clarifying question for Larry.
Richard.
Yes, for Larry, when you said that, quote, the system killed Martin Luther King, could you clarify how, quote, the system as opposed to a single European American individual killed Martin Luther King?
Thank you very much. Good question. The system that was dominated and is dominated by the white power structure, the military industrial complex, the banks, the money maker machines. Everything in America at that time was a part of the system. And so Martin Luther King was a threat to the system because Martin Luther King was demanding a certain amount of equality that would have intruded upon the system. So yes, there was a conspiracy in the system to get rid of any individual that was a threat to the system. So that's why I say the system.
All right, Richard, does that satisfy your question?
Well, I understand the answer. I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
All right, then. Okay, Richard, and you're next.
No, Phyllis is next.
Oh, Lord.
I don't think Richard was on the list. Did you want to be on the list, Richard?
No, that was my mistake. I meant to do a clarifying, and I did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Phyllis, and the list is open after Phyllis.
And maybe
we still have about
maybe we should go into the wrap up as soon as I'm done, just because we do have to have a little conversation at the end about a couple things. So I think Richard takes this white and black terminology a little too literally. Nobody thinks white means people with the same color skin as Beatrice's t-shirt. Nobody thinks black means what the square around Glenn's name or Amal's name look like. It's a range of tones of skin. And there are maybe problematic issues with some of that. But one, when you say you don't want to use those terms, you're, especially the term black, you are denying A, people's culture, and B, what they choose to call themselves. And that's what I care about. What do people want to call themselves? If Louise actually could call herself a European American because of her heritage. She could also call herself an African American because of her heritage. And the only African people I've met here who joke about being African American are people from Northern Africa, like Algeria, maybe Morocco. So I think if the idea of having these different terms is to end racism, it's not going to solve the problem of racism by changing the terms. The issue, as it states in the article, is who is more, what is the word? Who counts and who belongs. And that's the issue, I think. The problem with black and white is sometimes black is used to mean don't belong, don't count, and white is used to mean definitely belong and count. And that's not always the true because of individuals. And if you want to get into how did the system kill MLK and Malcolm X, because those people who did the killing were caught up in the system and were triggered by the system to do what they did. And let's not forget who held Malcolm X as he died, an Asian American woman. Okay. Are we doing the wrap up?
Thank you, Phyllis. All right, I was finally able to get everybody on the screen. I was scanning the screen. I was trying to see if I saw anybody's finger or hand go up. We still have a few more minutes. If anyone, Nancy is the only person
And Amal
spoken.
I think Amal did he?
Amal spoke.
Oh, we did? Oh, okay, sorry.
No.
Yes, Amal spoke. Yes, I have his name and I have a check mark next to his name as his.
I haven't spoken.
He hasn't spoken.
Where did I get that from? I thought that was
I
Amal.
don't know where you got it
Amal,
from.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
He introduced himself.
Amal, would you like to share your comments?
No, I didn't raise my hand. Oh, just a wrap up?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so yeah, this was a great article. I was looking at something on YouTube, and a guy gave an interesting definition to racism that I had never heard before. And he said that racism is the ability to create a reality and make others accept that reality as if it's their own. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that was a definition that I had never heard, and I've heard plenty. And so I had to think about that definition all week and think to myself, now, how does that apply when you look at how racism has played itself out over time? And if you look at the history of the United States or any place where, you would have to deal with these type of things, you'll see that definition play out. The ability to create a reality and to make others accept that reality as if it's their own. And that to me is that how do you now I have to figure out how do I destroy that reality and create a new one where everybody is accepted. But great article. I appreciate everybody's input.
Thank you, Amal. And I apologize, sweetheart. I definitely don't want to exclude you.
Don't take it personal. I'm good.
Oh no, not take it personally, sweetie. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else?
Nancy.
Nancy?
Yes. I just wanted to, as I was listening to everyone, address the issue of art and music. To me is a very passive way of addressing the issue of racism and discrimination and bias and all the other ills that surround race in this country. It's not getting to the heart of the matter of who has power and who doesn't. And who is accepted, or like I said, who belongs and who doesn't. And this country is very passive in that regard. So I just, okay, it's nice, but it doesn't really, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't carry any weight. That's the way to put it. Also, as far as education, there's a very strong push. Well, they are dismantling the Department of Education, and they're going to put it in the hands of the state. And if you do that, if there's not uniform education in this country, look at who will be able to afford education. I mean, particularly if you look at, just use Louisiana as an example. Who will get educated and who won't? And how will education and the narrative be controlled if there's not a uniform standard by which to teach, if you put it in the hands of the local communities? So anyway, that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Nancy. It brings us to 11:14, perfect timing. Does anyone in our discussion group this morning have any final remarks?
Well, we all have a minute.
We'll have a minute to go around the circle.
Okay. I think everybody's had an opportunity. Okay, so glad this finally got this screen adjusted. Okay, according to my screen, Phyllis, you have your minute.
Okay, thank you. I did appreciate this article very much, and I'm sorry it took me so long to get it emailed out. It was a week. I want to comment on what Professor Lewis says about humility and justice, and that it requires humility. And I think that is often lacking, even in our conversations. People take a moral high ground that they may not really have the right to claim. And I think it is important to look at every movement for social justice and learn about those people, learn about their culture, their art. To me, it's just everybody's a human being and everybody is deserving of human rights and social justice. I don't have to think about all the other things that go into it because I don't get worked up about what they do in their bedrooms or what kind of healthcare choices they're making. People just deserve basic human rights. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Phyllis. Beatrice?
Great conversation. Great to be with you. It's interesting. The John McWhorter, who is an associate professor of linguistics at Columbia University, I seldom agree with anything he says. He has recently come out with an article that was in the New York Times about, he's saying that it's time for African Americans to stop using African Americans, that we should use Black. He said that the term, it's time for descendants of slaves brought to the United States to stop using African American and return to Black, which I think is very interesting. I read the article and I seldom agree with anything he says. It was Jesse Jackson who termed the African American the term, and it's interesting. I usually say European American because I think white has an idea of purity and white people don't deserve that. But I think, like Marla, people should be called what they want to be called. That's not my business. That's your business. But I think I think this has just been a great conversation. But I invite you to look up that article by John McWhorter, because like I said, he made some good points. Because, yeah, great conversation. Thank you.
Say that guy's name again. Say his name again.
Sure. John McWhorter.
Okay.
MC, yeah, WHORTER. He's a professor. He's real conservative. Anyway, you read it. Read his point about why we should go back to saying we are Black. It's very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is interesting. Louise, thanks, B.
Actually, not much more to say. That everyone has said it, and it was a really good discussion. The PBS thing, Marla, is sickening and frightening, and we were just saying that we need more education, and yet they're taking away an amazing education for children to learn about different cultures. And I mean, it's we're at the despot, the future. We're at the sci-fi movie right now. Prejudice, saying it's a choice. Yeah, it's a really difficult choice to get out of being racist, I would think. If you're born and raised and that's been infiltrated into your brain the whole, your whole life, it takes a very brave person. But to be able to become free of that, you need to be educated. So I said right at the beginning about interactions, just learning that these people that you were so against or so thought were, animals or lesser than you, having personal interactions, is a very good way of dissipating that fear, which all it is fear, right? Ignorance and fear of the unknown. Let's face it, that's all it is. Anywho, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Larry?
Personal interactions may affect person-to-person relationships, but we're dealing with the system. And the system is going to still be in place. And America is complicit with everything that's gone on over in Palestine. And Israel is just an extension of America's racist philosophy. If Israel would not be done what they've done, they had to reduce the Palestinians to inhuman people, not deserving of a homeland, people standing in line for food, they bum them. Come on, y'all. And Richard, in response to your question about who killed Cain, it goes back 2,000 and some years ago. Who killed Jesus? Was it Pontius Pilate or was it a system? It was a system that killed him. Good article. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Nancy?
She
I
went.
already went, Marion.
All right, Marla. If you have any final words, we appreciate them.
Thank you. It was a great article, a very interesting discussion. Beatrice, completely agree with you about the association of white with purity. And to be clear, you can call me, identify me however you want to. It really doesn't matter to me. Thank you. This was a great article, good discussion. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Marla. Richard?
Yes, another great article has led us off in all kinds of interesting directions. And I do agree with certainly Marla and Phyllis that yes, one is certainly entitled to identify as whatever ethnicity or race or dare I say skin color that they wish to do. I'd also like to remind the viewers to this discussion that the old erasers and bumper stickers did say all colors with love and respect. For the last few years, I believe, when we've been reading the mission statement at the beginning of our online discussions, it I believe was all people with love and respect. And I think that was, I believe, a deliberate and significant change. I brought up before that white now, when it's written in whatever media you look at, is with a small w, which I think to me certainly indicates just a confusion about what the word really means, and that I think that it wasn't the American racist system that elected Obama president for 8 years. I don't think we're intractably racist to the core. Too much of history has actually shown the opposite. Last sentence, I encourage all viewers to this channel to come to New Orleans in places like the Irish Channel, between all the way from Jackson Avenue all the way up to Audubon Park. You'll see a, quote, integrated neighborhood, people of all backgrounds talking to each other. The day-to-day interactions that I think are talked about in this article, particularly in New Orleans, culturally and musically, are going to help us
Richard,
out.
are you ignoring the timer on purpose? The timer's been going off.
Thank you.
Let's proceed according to my screen. Thank you, Richard. Twice I've been tempted to call you Harvey. I've caught myself, even though I see Richard at the lower left. Dee Dee?
This was a good article and a great discussion as always. I have one question for you. It's really, why does someone have to identify as a race? We're all people. It's it, you know? I have a great grandchild whose father is teaching him to see race first and then to see their heart second. And it's taken everything I've got to undo that with him because he's got it backwards. We should see the heart first. Color can come along later. And that's all I'm going to say.
All right. Thanks, Dee Dee. And finally, please correct me if I'm wrong. Amal?
Amal's done already. It's Glenn.
All right, Glenn isn't even on the screen. Okay, sorry, Glenn.
No problem.
This is a crazy Saturday.
Well, I agree with Dee Dee just said that. And Martin Luther King said the same thing. Judge a person by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. And I think we in the last throw of that, of the race being used against people. I think that's coming to a quick conclusion. I don't give it no more than about 10 more years that it be effective on this planet. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. Very quickly, as you all were speaking, a memory came to mind. I'm not going to be long because we have to get to this business at the end. In my lifetime, persons of my hue have been called colored. I remember as a child getting on this bus, the streetcar, had a little sign said for colored patrons only, and you had to sit behind that. And people would get on the bus or the streetcar and move the sign all the way back. So all of the people of color would have to sit in the back of the bus or the streetcar, being called Negro, African American. It's because we're flawed, imperfect, flesh and blood mortals. And also the environment in which we've grown up in, how we've been raised, that makes us who we are. And that has made some people believe that they're either better than others, and some people might feel like they're worthless or not as good as. I don't believe that. We're all flawed, we're all imperfect, we're all human beings, and we should treat each other the way we wish to be treated. I appreciated everyone's comments and looking forward to the next time that we meet. Thank you all so very much for your contributions. I, for one, believe that if we didn't have music or art, it would make us a little less human. And an old cliche, old proverb, whatever you want to call it, saying popped into my head about music hath charms to soothe the savage beast. The first time I heard that was told to our vocal music class at Coyne High School, Beatrice, when your daddy was the principal. Miss Irma Lee Henry, who was sitting at the piano leading the music class that particular day, told us that she thought music was the be all to end all, and she told us that phrase about music having charms to soothe the savage beast. So with that being said, thanks again, everyone. Looking forward to our next discussion.